Hi, and welcome back to On the Edge. I'm your host, Lauren Deal. Thanks for joining us today as we feature another happiness hero, working to make our community a better place. Adam Zern joins us again to share some insight into Lancaster's surprising history and update us on his various adventures. We give you more information on how you can give back to the Lancaster community with our 717-411. Now please enjoy this episode's Happiness Hero. We are here today at the Centerville Pet Rescue, and we have a special guest. We have two. Tell us about who you are and who you're holding.
I am Heidi. I am the director here at Centerville Pet Rescue, and I am holding Chester. Chester is our resident FIV positive cat. He's also missing one of his back feet. We aren't sure how that happened. He came that way from a farm, but luckily for Chester, he came to us, and a lot of shelters don't want to deal with the FIV positive cats because they're confused and don't understand it, but we know that it's perfectly fine and that he can live a long, healthy, happy life. So we're happy to find him a home, and we have good success doing so.
And he's a beautiful cat, great personality. Speaking of which, we are in a room full of cats, which is this is heaven. This is literally heaven. So Heidi, tell us about the cats that you have here, how they come to your rescue, and then what is the process of rescuing?
So a lot of our cats come to us through people who do TNR work, trap, neuter, release. We do a lot of work with a local clinic that specializes in TNR, and so cats will come in to get spayed or neutered. And, you know, our team is in there working, and they see the cats and they go, this cat really isn't feral. This cat's pretty friendly, actually. And they'll contact me and say, hey, let's consider taking this cat. And we do. So instead of putting them back outside to live, they get to come in here and hang out with us. First, they go into foster. That way they can get fully vetted. So they get spayed or neutered. They get their rabies, they get distemper shots, they get microchipped with lifetime microchips, treated for fleas and worms and all that fun stuff that they can have outside.
Now, Heidi, if we were looking to help the Centerville Pet Rescue, what are some things that you would like the community to either donate or to help supply?
Well, we can always use, these guys go through cat toys like crazy. So cat toys and cat treats are always a big need around here. Other than that, you know, there's people who like to make beds for in the cages. So these are just a couple examples of some of the beds that people have donated to us. As simple as some old bed sheets that they sewed into a rectangle and put some stuffing in. The cats love them. They wash up great. Or they take old pillows that they had sitting around and they make a nice fleece cover for them, which the cats love. And then they open up and come off so that we can wash them and keep them nice and clean. It's always nice, the fleece blankets. We also have a wish list on Amazon, so people can check us out and check out our wish list on Amazon and purchase through Amazon Smile. So some of the proceeds go back to the rescue.
Oh, that's perfect.
And any donations that people want to drop off, we're located inside that fish place, so there's a big donation bin at the front of the store where people can drop off anything they want, and we'll get it there.
And if you wanted to be a rescue or someone who wanted to take one of these furry friends home, how would you do that?
So we have our adoption application. Right now, thanks to COVID, we are working under an appointment-only scenario. So you fill out an application, which you can download from our website or from our Facebook page, and return it to us. We'll get you approved, and we'll schedule an appointment for you to come in and meet the available babies and help you find your forever friend.
Well, Heidi, thank you so much for having us at the Centerville Pet Rescue. We're excited to invite a new furry friend into your home. And what is the final message you'd like to send to our viewers?
Well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for having us and visiting us today. And come on out. We'd be glad to help you find your next furry friend.
Looking for a home. A big thanks to this episode's Happiness Hero. Now next up, we hear from Adam Zern, who is back with Uncharted Lancaster to share his adventures from all over Lancaster County. Welcome to this episode of Uncharted Lancaster.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me back. Hey, today we are going to answer the immortal question, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? And here's the spoiler alert, nothing good. And so, in fact, train engineer William Neely found out on December 23rd, 1981, when his 82-car freight train collided with a 3-ton boulder near Safe Harbor a long, long time ago. It's a long time ago for most of our viewers, probably.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so lots of questions are arising, but I guess my question is, how do you stop an 84 car moving object when you see a huge boulder, or you just don't?
Slowly is kind of the answer there. So this is between Safe Harbor and Shanks Ferry is an unbelievably popular climbing area. So if anytime I hike there, I'll see scores of people climbing up the rock walls and rappelling down. And it's in this exact area where this ginormous, like 3-foot tall, 25-foot long boulder just kind of separated from the type of stone is called schist, the rock there, just separated and fell across the two tracks. Now, this is in December, and again, the internet is awesome because if you Google December 23rd, 1981 sunset, it tells you that sunset was at 4:44 p.m. And so, the accident didn't occur until 5:11. So, Bill is, the engineer of this train, and they're going into Morristown in Bucks County with this, large freight line. And at this point, after 5 o'clock, it is dark. I mean, luckily now it's in January and we're getting a little more daylight every single day. But just think about how dark it is so early, in the midst of December there. And so it is pitch black. And so all of a sudden, just not that far in the distance, Bill can see this giant boulder that's, separated from the mountainside and just landed across these two tracks of the Enola low grade. Unfortunately, he's only like 30 yards away. So he, pulls on the emergency brake and just kind of hopes for, the best. And so, but unfortunately, a train of this size and mass is going to take, hundreds of yards to come to, an emergency stop. So the train is slowing, but definitely not enough, and it collides with this boulder going about 30 miles per hour. And the first 13 cars of the train just fold like a paper, fan, like you'd make when you were a kid. And there's a picture there, and you can just see it just zigzagged as it kind of gets wedged between these two corridors of the stone lining. Now, I've heard some various reports. So there's what the Lancaster newspaper says happened. And, in writing this article, I've had a lot of trained people who were either knew the engineer or, were kind of, I remember working on the cleanup. And so some people say there were, 4 men in the train, and the newspaper said, 3 of them jumped out, and Bill kind of went down with the ship like a captain would, staying inside. Now, some of these train experts have told me there is no way they would jump out of the engine because you're safer inside than jumping out and the train derailing and just crushing you as it rolls over you. So they said if anyone was in there, you would have just buckled in and just braced for impact as best you could.
That was what is the route? What are your choices when you're seeing it happen? Do you stay and hope that you don't get smushed, or do you jump out at 30 miles an hour?
And hope the train doesn't roll over you as it derails. So
there are a lot of winning ideas here.
Yeah, that is the proverbial, rock in a hard place there, I think, going on is, how do you want to meet your doom?
Yes.
So the train hits it, and, it accordions, and people in Conestoga, about a mile and a half away, report hearing this, this explosion. They thought, there was dynamite, being detonated or something, because the collision and impact was just, so powerful. Now, the good news is William lived, didn't die, and, he was rushed to, St. Joseph's Hospital in Lancaster. It was open back then in the 80s. And then, of course, came the cleanup crew. And so the train was heavy. It was filled with sand, paper products, and then this petroleum byproduct. And so instantly there were a lot of concerns that this byproduct is flammable. And so it is just all over the hillside there, really close to the Susquehanna River, and lots of concerns that this is going to ignite, cause a fire, cause a forest fire. And so they had fire, I think it was a 4-alarm fire, and they had fire crews from all over kind of come out there and deal with it. Now, the good news was the petroleum byproduct is not flammable, but does cause skin burns. And so, the firemen and rescue personnel on the site had to deal with this, very caustic chemical there, in the valley, which is pretty crazy.
Wow. And Bill, do we know what happened to Bill?
Interestingly enough, I do. And again, the internet is great. And so Facebook, one of the readers reached out to me and said, I was a train engineer, worked at Conrail for decades, and I knew, Bill really well. And so I went to visit him in the hospital when he was at St. Joseph's. And he said he was just really never quite the same and retired on disability. And now he lives somewhere out west. He was only 27 at the time. So he was a pretty young guy, in the act when this thing happened. So he's okay, but claiming Conrail disability there to this day. Now the cool thing is they did clean up the accident, but there's still a fair amount of debris left out there along the Enola low grade. And it took some time, but I was able to track down, exactly where this accident occurred. And it's one of the side quests on Uncharted Lancaster. So, if you want to go out, you can go visit and see the site of this train accident and see some of the wreckage. There's some boxcar, sides, and there are, the train tracks themselves, and they are just bent like a horseshoe. I mean, just the force that, has to be applied there as this train is, accordion and rolling, and, it ripped up like 300 feet of track that, and the whole line was closed for several days, and, train traffic had to be rerouted as, Conrail came back in and, and fixed, all of these pieces in there. And so I had a guy just the other day send me a ton of pictures of the wreckage. He had totally combed the hillside and found a lot more than I had found, which I thought was really neat, that he was, inspired by the story and went out himself and just documented, all the debris and wreckage that's out there, just kind of waiting for people to explore and find for themselves, having their own little mini adventures.
Well, and that is bringing me to my next point. If you decide to go out and check out this adventure from Uncharted Lancaster, make sure that you're using the hashtag Uncharted Lancaster so that we can see the photos and possibly feature you on our next episode. Also, if you're looking for more adventures, you can go to unchartedlancaster.com and see all of Adam's amazing armchair adventures as well as out in the field adventures. I have to ask another question though, Adam.
Yes.
They removed the boulder, and is that railway functional?
So they dynamited the boulder because it was too big to move. And so they did rebuild the railroad, but today it's part of the Enola low grade. So it's just a hiking trail, a rail trail there. And hopefully early next year, the Safe Harbor Trestle, which has been closed to the public since, I don't know, probably they closed the rail in '89, will be open to walking traffic, which is going to be really exciting. It's 1,500 feet long. It's going to give you, an amazing view of the dam, of the Susquehanna. I think it's something like 120 feet above the Conestoga River, directly below it. So it's going to be a really exciting place for people to bike and hike and climb and to visit some train wreckage on a Uncharted Lancaster adventure.
Well, that is fascinating, and you've motivated me to get up out of my couch and to hit some trails. So thank you so much for joining us, Adam, and we can't wait to see you on the next episode and hear about more adventures coming our way.
Thanks.
All right, see ya. Thanks to Adam for sharing his adventures with everyone. Next, we have our 717-411, where we try to focus on supporting a community member who's doing wonderful things in the area.
On the Edge with Lauren, we have an amazing guest today.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you very much, Lauren. And my name's Chef John Moeller. I am the owner and chef of the Greenfield Restaurant and a former White House chef for 3 administrations.
Now, John, you have an amazing list of accomplishments, as you say, but you started off in Lancaster. Tell us about how this kind of evolved into such a beautiful journey.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Lancaster here. My first job in the kitchen was at Franklin Marshall College, in the kitchen there, just being a grunt worker. And all of a sudden, I kind of started helping the chefs, putting chicken on a sheet pan and cracking eggs. And all of a sudden, it had me. And that was back in the mid-late 70s. And I never left the kitchens. So while I was doing that, I decided in high school to go to a VOTEC program, but nowadays they call it CTC for cooking. And so I did that for 2 years and then went to Johnson & Wales up in Providence, Rhode Island, and got a 2-year culinary degree. And then started doing my culinary tour after that. After living and working in the New England area, Providence and also Boston, then I decided to pack my bag up and bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and then ended up spending 2.5 years in France. Basically traveling around, working in different hotels and restaurants, learning a language and a new way of life. And so that lasted 2.5 years. And then mid-late 80s, I ended up back in Lancaster for about a month or so when I came back from Europe. And then there was an opportunity to go down to the Virgin Islands. And I said, I'm on that plane. Yeah. So I was able to get away from winter for one winter. And that was wonderful, you know. And then it was at the end of that season, when they closed down for the summer, I was heading back to Lancaster in the summer of 1987 and came across a restaurant in Washington, D.C. that was looking for some help. A few more stories around all that, but basically within a couple of days, I'm working full time in D.C. And then got to know a lot of local chefs there. And about maybe 3 weeks after I started working there, the chef that I was working for, he was French Belgian.
Okay.
And he knew my French background. And actually, he saw one of the restaurants that worked in France, which was kind of big time at the time. And he was voted Chef of the Year of all of France in 1984. And I was with him in 1985. He said, boy, if you work for Bernard Loiseau, you could work for me, you know? And so one night he said after service on a Friday night, he said, why don't you come with me tonight? All the French chefs in Washington get together once in a while. Tonight's the night. He says, your French is good enough. You can hang with us. So we went down to the Mayflower Hotel, and every French chef in Washington was there that night. And I was the only gringo in the crowd. And we became friends. And every couple of months, we go out for that little networking beverage and kind of, you know, chat with these guys. And one guy I met that first evening in 1990, a couple of years later, became a sous chef at the White House. And I heard about it. It's pretty cool. Pierre's at the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later, he called me up one day and said, hey, John, I don't know if you know or not, but I've been a sous chef here. Now I'm up for the chef position. Now I'm looking for someone to be my sous chef.
Oh.
Be interested. I said, I don't know. Let me think about this. Absolutely. I mean, my goodness, what do I have to do, you know? So when we sat down to talk about the position, he said, there's 5 chefs that work full-time in the White House, 2 in the pastry, 3 on the cooking side. He says, I'm French born, but yet to be American citizen to work full-time. The pastry chef is French born too, but of course, American citizen. He says, I could bring another Frenchman in that's American citizen, but I think it's too many French people. So what I'm looking for is an American that knows something about French cooking. So the little French connection is what set me apart from the other candidates and got me in. And I started at the last year of the George H.W. Bush's administration, then 8 years with the Clintons, and then 5 years with George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm. Just the progression, you know, and I truly think it's networking and the people you know and where you are. It's amazing how you started just in the kitchen, you know, cracking eggs, and look where you've come. My next question, I'm sure all of our viewers want to know, what is it like interacting with the president?
Well, it was extraordinary. I mean, suddenly I'm catapulted up to the second floor of the White House, and that's where the president and first lady live. You know, down the first floor is all the ceremonial rooms, you know, red room, green room, state dining room, but they live on the second floor right above the state dining room, basically. And so suddenly you're catapulted up there and you're inside the ring of the Secret Service. There's no Secret Service standing in the kitchen watching what I'm doing. There's not even Secret Service sitting or standing in the dining room watching the president eat. They're not allowed in the private quarters. They have to stay outside the private quarters. You know, if somebody hits a panic button, they're in there, guns ablazing. But other than that, which never happened really, except for one time. There was only one time they ushered the president out on the fly. We would get into that later there. It was after 9/11, you know. But other than that, between the chefs, the butlers, and the maids, we are the closest ones to them on a day-to-day basis at a very private moment.
Yes.
And breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all the private meals for them and the official functions, and any guests that they have that stay overnight at the White House.
Ask, what is a typical breakfast, lunch, or dinner for a president?
Most of the presidents didn't have a lot for breakfast. They ate minimal, like a little bit of fruit and coffee for sure. You know, the Bushes got up early. President George H.W. would be up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. He'd go and scan and read through the newspapers. All the newspapers were delivered to the White House. You know, New York Times, Washington Post, you know, Wall Street Journal. All those major publications were there, and they'd be set at his door every single morning to take a look at there. You know, and then usually by 6 or 6:30 in the morning, they'll be heading over to the Oval Office and getting their day started. And the president, now the first ladies, oatmeal seems to be the most popular thing. They were very much into that, you know. Laura Bush liked steel cut oats. every single morning for almost the whole time she was there. She ate that every single day.
I guess if you know what you like, stick to it. But when you have someone with your culinary talents, I think I would say like, John, surprise me, you know?
Lunch and dinner is a little different story. It's kind of like, I'm kind of the same thing. I'm a little bit of a routine person when it comes to breakfast. Let's get something in your belly and get moving here, and get the day started.
Yes.
But what was extraordinary is I got a chance to play with my food a lot here, because you're serving the same people every day. They happen to be the president and first lady, and they bring people to dinner like kings, queens, and prime ministers. So the pressure's on. We're constantly looking at local ingredients, seasonal ingredients. What can we do to maybe take an ingredient, that the prime minister of Japan's coming in. I'm not going to make sushi for him, but I might take an ingredient, put a twist on it, and make it an American version of something. So we were constantly looking and changing up things. Most dinners that we did, especially on the official level, we never repeated the same twice. And people say, "Hey, do you ever meet all these leaders and stuff like that?" They're not rolling us out in the dining room and saying thanks. It's all about the president, first lady. The food is important, and it's a vehicle to bring these people together, and that's the magic of food. But it's more about what they do together as two countries. Mm-hmm.
And a great learning experience for you, constantly growing and being able to try new things in your kitchen. And I'm sure that you had everything you could possibly ask for at your disposal, right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we searched far and wide for things, and we'd have things shipped from all around the country for different things. It might be, some wahoo coming from Hawaii, or some specific venison that I would like to have coming out of Texas, or a Dungeness crab coming out of the Northwest, or just simple soft shell crab from Maryland, that usually intrigued a lot of foreign dignitaries. They thought that was pretty cool to have a soft shell crab.
How many people do you have on the team when you're in that kitchen?
Well, there's only 3 of us on cooking side.
Okay.
Although when we have a steak dinner or a big event, we did have local chefs that were on a clearance to come in, and they were called escort workers. We'd have to go up to the gate, pick them up once they're cleared to come into the property, and they get an E-pass. That means escort. They can't wander around on their own. They have to stay with us the whole time.
Wow.
So they can help us out with big events. Mm-hmm.
So you did 3 different presidential terms, and then you ended in 2005. What was the next chapter for you?
Well, immediately after I finished up, a lot of people wanted to hear my story or have a dinner. Have do work with a couple of groups that wanted to work with these type of dinners here. So I got pretty busy just doing basically catering. So I kind of leaned toward catering more than a restaurant in the beginning. So I decided to kind of go that route and see what happens. Mm-hmm.
So you came to Lancaster, and you decided that you're going to create this this new chapter back in your hometown. Have you found that when you left and when you returned, Lancaster had a different vibe or different feeling when you returned?
Yeah, back in 2010 when I came back, it was kind of like a Twilight Zone experience in the beginning there. You run into people you haven't seen for decades. And believe me, in 1979, when I graduated high school, I couldn't wait to get out of here. So if I see one more horse and buggy, I think I'll go crazy, But
Right.
coming back, I also stepped back into Lancaster and watched the revolution go on. For the past 10 plus years, downtown Lancaster has revitalized itself tremendously. All the new the warehouses that transformed into luxury apartments and things of that nature. You have kind of the the quasi baby boomish type folks who spent their last couple of decades raising families out in the burbs. Now they don't want to cut grass, and so they're kind of downsized a bit and are living downtown, enjoying the city life.
Absolutely. And I feel like Lancaster has so much to offer. And just within the last few years, like you spoke, so many new restaurants are here, so many new just eateries or just experiences. Lancaster has so much to offer. And the Greenfield Inn specifically is a beautiful place. Tell us about how you acquired that property.
Well, it was in July of 2018 is when I took it over. Maybe 4 or 5 months earlier than that, somebody had approached me, real estate agent. And I've had a lot of restaurants over the years since I've been back here that were being presented to me. And I was like, this is not the easiest business to be in. And nothing really, I can never really connect with a lot of these places, I I was going to name a few names of some places I went into, but I just didn't feel the connection for the most part. Not to get into it too deeply there. But when I came here, and then also heard of the support from the basically my landlord here, the High Group was very interested once my name was on the list to take over this property and continue a tradition that's been very good for many, many years. The previous owner was here for 20, 25 plus years and did a wonderful job. That's a long time to be in the restaurant business, And so I said, you know what? I think of all the restaurants that I've seen, this is something that I could maybe, finish out my career on here.
John, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you more at the Greenfield Inn.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you at the Greenfield Inn one of these days soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of On the Edge. If you know someone in our community who deserves to be featured on the show, please contact us by using this social media. I'm Lauren, and until next time, stay on the edge.